is either to build your own products and platforms or to ensure that global health data gets into the global platforms that already exist. And, we're going to have to work around the African data sovereignty issue, because that sometimes actually blocks the access into the global platforms. But I'm really hoping to see many more products come out of the digital savannah, and products that are trained on African data.
That's interesting. So you're saying it's almost like a world where it's a collaborative effort between the tech geniuses of the continent and the medical schools of the continent. Dr. Abu
Yes.
wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, I think in this context, it is very important at the earlier stage to, for instance, in the case of education itself, to design the curriculum with the input of interdepartmental, consultations. For instance, here in Japan, the ethical considerations would be taken at the earlier stage of developing that curriculum. And if there is any conflict of interest or cultural inappropriateness or those kind of elements. So when we integrate that at the earlier stage, most of the problems may be addressed in the process. But of course, you cannot address every ethical consideration. And when those problems emerge, to address them as transparently as possible, and that would solve the problem. But the broader topic, we have to really think about how society, or the global society as such, is internalizing this technology, and it starts somewhere. It spreads, and how to collectively own that process, because eventually we are going to use it. And if we have to go to use it, it is better we contribute to its design, its growth, and the like. So that is the way to go about it. And of course, when you have still some challenges dealing with existing access to basic type of education, addressing those kind of more complicated international issues may be a challenge, but it has to start somewhere, and at a certain stage. So it is better to initiate those kind of efforts from the earlier stage possible.
Okay, good. That's very helpful.
And if I could also address two other ethical issues. So we've addressed bias, and we've addressed sort of access. There's also patient consent. So if I'm a patient, do I need to consent before my physician can use AI to design my care plan or to manage my side effects? So that's one issue, sort of informed consent. And the other is medical malpractice, because I think several things are going to happen. One is, we're going to continue our normal patient load, but use AI. For example, I'm a pediatrician, and I use an AI-powered app to determine whether a baby that has jaundice needs the Billy wipes or not. And so if that app gives me a wrong number and I make a treatment error, whose fault is that? Is that my fault, or is that the app's fault? And the app does not have a medical license. I do. And also, what does it mean if that app was approved for use by my hospital? And what does it mean if that app was not approved for use by the hospital I'm practicing in? So there's some huge ethical issues. And also, say currently in my hospital, I take care of 20 patients at a time. But now that I have an AI, team member, they give me 40 patients at a time. And, something happens, it's too much, and a medical error is made. Whose fault is that? And I think that in order for physicians to truly uptake AI, we need to settle these accountabilities, these sort of regulatory and medical liability issues.
Okay, that's very helpful. Dr. Acheng, this one is for you. As we automate more learning and diagnostic process, how do we keep the empathy and clinical reasoning at the heart of medicine? And I think one this one of our audiences also asked a similar question, in that how do we make sure that we don't lose the essence of critical thinking and human interaction? Dr. Atom?
Yes, I think I've seen that question as well. So one of the things that maybe is a concern as we go in this direction is understanding that we are not handing everything over to AI, even as we are incorporating AI in training. So it's very critical that what we train our students to understand is how can they use AI to add on to their critical thinking, not to just purely decide that AI takes the lead. So shifting that focus from I'm using AI to guide me purely to I'm using AI to just add on to my clinical judgment and to evaluate that as well. So one of the things is there are some institutions that have used some calibration modules to adjust how AI recommends certain processes to them. So training them on the safety mechanisms and preparing clinicians on how precisely to use AI, to trust AI, and when to override it. That's something that is important and something that can be trained from the get-go, ensuring that it's incorporated in our approach. And as has been mentioned, is really when we look at the faculty and the data that they're using, an awareness of what data was used to train these AI models, especially for us as Africans. And as you've mentioned, there is bias, there is algorithmic bias, and what are we doing? How are we contributing to ensuring that we support localized data labeling and localized data annotation so that it can actually be used to create these localized language processing networks. Additional to what has been mentioned previously, I wanted to add on that there's also a cultural context and a relevant cultural context when it comes to Africa and how we approach the patient-doctor relationship. We tend to have more of a community-based approach, whereas AI really pushes us to have this one-on-one approach. So when it comes to AI, you can actually be very contextual in how you use it. And as I mentioned, using a phased approach would be great in the beginning to understand what works and what does not work in our cultural context. So we don't have to copy paste what is working in the global north to what would work in Africa.
Okay. I am conscious of time. We have 4 minutes left. So I will pick, rather than go through my own question list, if the panelists would allow, I'll pick 1 or 2 questions from the audience, just so that we get their sense. So I think we've asked an ethic question, we've asked critical questioning. One question that came in is, how do we overcome the fear and anxiety that one needs in-depth knowledge of ICT to utilize AI in medicine?
It seems, this is a continuous process, at the earlier stage, when we confront new technology, new stuff, always we have some degree of reservation. But the main thing is we also have to, endeavor to develop our organic intelligence. It is not artificial intelligence is not a substitute. So we have to work on those basic foundation of a learning ecosystem that would enable us to use AI for our advantage, and instead of being, the leading, AI experts or the technology promoters would shape how this technology evolves over time. So it is our collective effort. So absorbing that and internalizing in our routine, then we can contextually interpret how it can be useful for our activities, be it in learning or in practicing or for business, all those kind of things. So yes, at the earlier stage, there is hesitation because we are not mastering it very well, but eventually we would reach that stage. So I would take it in that context.
So one last question, and I think I'll direct it at either Dr. Abu or Dr. Acheng. How do you recommend that we continue to use human data, or we continuously perform human data generation / research so that we can improve the existing data that AI is going to be using?
So I can start off on this just by speaking to ensuring that all stakeholders are bought into the direction that we're going in. So if we start from the policy makers, we start from government, we start from leadership in the universities, we bring on board these different councils and medical practitioner boards across board, then we can be very intentional in advocating for our data so that the outputs of AI are also reflecting our populations and our needs. So being very intentional about creating environments that also reward those who continue to generate African data and also reward the teachers who continue to elevate research among their students is very important. As I mentioned also, if you take away a lot of these admin tasks that our teachers have to engage in, then they actually free up their time to do more research and to be more intentional in how they collect research. So it's just that shift and also creating the right policies in the workplace, in the universities at a very high level to ensure that data is still collected and that there are rewards, tenure, etc. related to research.
Great, great. We are at time, unfortunately. So I'd just like to thank all our panelists for such an insightful conversation, and also to everybody that popped questions in. I really do hope we answered all your thoughts and your questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Acheng, Dr. Kate, and Professor Abu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Igwe, over to you.
Dr. Egbe, do you want us to proceed?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm so sorry. I was saying thank you very much to Abimbola and panel 1 for a very interesting discussion. We would like to, before you go to panel 2, want to see if Professor Angela can do her remarks. Professor Angela, can we hear you?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry, I had some network connectivity issues, so I couldn't log in on time to talk. I want to say I thank you for inviting me to this very important webinar on artificial intelligence in tertiary education with a focus on healthcare. And I've listened to the different discussants, and I know that we have learned quite a lot from them. And I want to say that definitely this discussion could not have come at a better time, because we know that higher education globally is being reshaped